Hello and welcome to the Worst Fans podcast, where this evening I'm joined by my cousin Marco and my other cousin Victor. And today, or Buck, we call him. Today, we are inspired by, be careful how I word this. We are motivated to discuss Lord of the Rings. Some of us have seen it, some of us have not seen it, the Rings of Power. Um, but for me, I wanted to, a couple weeks ago, I had it in me, I wanted to start over with the Peter Jackson stories. And one in particular, I never finished The Hobbit. I watched There and Back again. Then I watched half of Desolation of Smog in the theater and fell asleep and never went on to the Battle of Five Armies. But I did that. I watched The Hobbit, boom, boom, boom. It took me about a week. I mean, I spaced it out and everything. And then, yeah, on Lord of the Rings, the extended edition, which I haven't seen those since about 2012. So it's been 10 years, actually. Um, Great experience, about 2 weeks to do it, and in doing so, I started thinking. I've had a lot of conversations with these guys along the way, and I had this epiphany, call it, where I realized many fans, learned about Lord of the Rings because of Peter Jackson's movies. Of course, a lot of people read it, but it was a trilogy of movies, contained story, introduced the characters, had a really epic, middle act, and then it ended in a resolution and everything was happy again. Great story. And it's funny, there's another, franchise we're quite fond of that was similar, and that would have been Star Wars. Alright? So I had a quick comparison in my head of that, and then it hit me that when I'm watching Hobbit, it was years later, same creator, but less favored by most audiences. It was liked, I think generally, but I don't think people went nuts over it. So then it also 3 movies, and of course, that was like the prequels. So I'm realizing we have the same creator, calling him Peter Jackson. I understand Tolkien wrote it, but in this franchise, he was the man behind it. And then you have George Lucas, also the creator, and then going in a prequel direction. Here, let me tell you the episode 1, 2, and 3 now, just like The Hobbit 1, 2, and 3, we could say. And then it's put to rest for a while. And then those who own the rights to that story sell them, aka Disney. I'm sorry, Lucasfilm selling to Disney. New Line Cinema, I guess it's Warner Brothers selling to Amazon. And then immediately a new company takes a new direction, new creators, and says, we're going to go in our own direction and we're here to find a new audience. We aren't really interested in carrying over the old audience as much. We're going to get some residual people, but you know what? We're all about finding a new group for us to watch this thing. It doesn't have to be canon, it's going to be different. Well, I guess in Star Wars they try to make it canon, but it didn't seem like it. In the sequels, that is. So yeah, I'm comparing now the sequels to Rings of Power, which has only just begun, so I can't speak fully on that. I can't speak any on it. I haven't watched it. But as we discussed this, we all kind of sat there and said, "Damn, that's actually pretty close." So that's our topic for today. I think we're going to try to do a retrospective, and first, I guess let's go around the table. Who's seen Rings of Power? Not me. All right. General consensus is let's go old school scale. We're not talking suits right now. 1 to 10 so far?
Um, huh. I'm gonna give it about a 7 for now. I
Pretty
mean,
high.
it's intriguing. I'll give it that.
That's higher than Obi-Wan.
Very beautiful. Well, this is just well. Remember, I was rating I think Obi-Wan in the beginning kind of high until it
You're right.
finished. So I mean, so far it is interesting. I don't know the history with Tolkien. I mean, I started reading Fellowship of the Ring when the Lord of the Rings came out, so then I stopped because I just couldn't get through it. So I'm not a Tolkien fan as far as the books. I am a Peter
Right.
Jackson fan. So from what I've seen of it, right now it's okay. It's a very beautiful, expensive show. Um,
That it
it's
is expensive.
it's intriguing. I mean, it's only 2 episodes in. I'm not gonna say it's completely mind blowing because it's not. I mean, it's not. I'm not gonna compare it to House of Dragon because that completely took my attention right away. That was like wow, but it's intriguing. That's all I'm gonna say. I mean, it's all I can say about it. Really. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
intriguing. You like it. It's a 7, so there's so far nothing negative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'll go ahead and jump in. From what I hear on the outside here looking in, there's at least some distinguished differences between at least how Peter Jackson portrayed certain characters and what we're seeing now. Is that noticeable and does it bother you?
I mean, yes and no. The thing is, this takes place, I think, I believe, in a second age.
Mhm.
So this is like thousands and thousands of years before two certain characters that are in Lord of the Rings. I mean, how they were and how they are in Lord of the Rings, it could be completely different because we don't know what's how their story ends in Ring of Power. So it's kind of hard to say. Well, I mean, without any spoilers, Galadriel, yes, she's completely different in this show than she was in Lord of the Rings. So
I guess we could land
it's
spoilers here. We might as well drop that now because we're
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
That's the only
yeah,
way we're really gonna talk about the
right,
show is if
right,
spoilers.
right. So the two noticeable characters from the Lord of the Rings franchises is Galadriel and Elrond. Those are the only
Galadriel.
Galadriel. Sorry, the Elvish tongue. What are you gonna do?
it's
Yeah,
the Puerto Rican tongue. You did a th on your
there you go.
T.
Yeah,
Galadriel.
yeah. So those are the only two characters that are on the show that we know of that are from Lord of the Rings.
Mhm.
And it's too early to tell. I mean, she's really different from the Lord of the Rings movies. Him, not so much. I could see how he is the way he is in Lord of the Rings, but again, I don't. We're talking about a 1,000 year difference. I mean, I'm sure people change throughout those years. So I mean, I don't.
You gotta agree with that,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
from 10 years
So
ago.
it's kind of hard to say. Oh well, it's no way this character would do this. And turn. Well, Jesus, that's a huge years and years gap. So I don't know. I mean, there are some similarities. As I was watching the show, in certain shots, I'm like, yeah, that kind of does remind me of Peter Jackson's, and some of it doesn't. Um, but again, it is not connected to Peter Jackson, so it doesn't really affect me. I mean, so far it seems okay, you know. So yeah, that's what I think about it personally. Yeah, for now.
You like, House of Dragons better?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
Really?
without a question. Oh
Both of you,
yes,
Yes.
okay.
without a doubt. And it's funny
100%.
because Game of Thrones broke a lot of people's hearts, but
Yeah,
House of Dragon got me back in with no problems. Like
House
I'm
of the
completely
Dragon.
hooked. Yeah, House
I
of the
keep
Dragon.
saying House of Dragons, it's House
Yeah,
of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon. I keep saying House of Dragons with an S because a lot of
There's
dragons
a
in the
lot of
show.
dragons in the show, okay?
So I don't
Just
know why it's just one. They haven't. Well,
House
whatever.
of
Yeah.
House of the Dragon, because it's
Mhm.
the family.
because at
How
the end
like
there's
House
only gonna
Yeah.
be the one dragon, the one sitting
Yeah.
on the throne.
Yeah. We're getting
alright,
off topic here.
Alright,
yeah,
sorry.
so Marco also it sounds like you like it okay?
I mean,
About the same or
listen, the first episode was around the same rank Bug gave it, was around a 7. I was intrigued, I enjoyed it for the most part. When it came to the next, it brought me down to like a 4. It got really boring, and it got
that's a big
like
drop.
That's funny because I'm the other way around. I thought the second episode was better than the first.
really. I thought the
Personally,
ending of
yeah,
the second episode was
but yeah,
was was good, but
yeah,
then like I
yeah.
don't know. I feel like there's obviously they don't have the complete rights to a lot of the stuff of Lord of the Rings,
No,
so
they don't.
it's
That doesn't make sense to me. How do you get parts of it? Because I heard about the Hobbit thing.
Yeah,
Like,
yes,
how do you only
because
how do you
they
get
they call
yeah,
them Harfoots. That's what it is.
yeah,
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 The
but
yeah.
hobbits.
how are they like, you look, you can have 85% of this whole story, but that thing called hobbits, you're not gonna get that, come up with something else.
I mean,
That's weird.
it's
Like,
Yeah,
because
because
like
I don't understand.
they
yeah,
only
go.
have the rights to the second age of the story, so that's it. They
Oh,
can't go before or
okay.
beyond
Yeah,
that.
because
Yeah.
That's
So
actually
Harfoots are a
yeah,
descendant of Hobbit. That's
yeah,
they're like a type
or
of ancestor.
ancestor to Hobbit. Yeah, yeah.
Excuse
ancestors.
me.
Yeah.
So, that's something I didn't know, Buck. Okay,
Mm.
interesting. It's they got the right. We'll sell you the rights to Second Age. Is that why you were saying the Lord of the Rings got sold to someone else, and they have
It
a
did, yeah. Recently, I think about 2 weeks ago. I forgot who bought it, but
so?
some company bought it, and so I don't know what this means for the show now. I don't know
Well, that would
if
be the third age, probably.
yeah, I
Which
guess
is what the Lord of the Rings is. So maybe we'll get a remake of Lord of the Rings one day. Is what it's going to be.
yeah, and because they're already
Weird.
talking, they're gonna put out TV shows, movies, games. They're gonna go nuts
Who
with
is
it.
this? I've not
I
heard
have
this
to look it
person.
up again.
Yeah, why don't you
I
do
gotta
that?
look
In
it
the
up.
meantime,
Yeah, I'll look it up.
we were asking you, Marco. You're
Yeah.
kind of like it went downhill after episode 1.
Yeah. Also, off topic. I know he mentioned games. Shadow of Mordor is free for Amazon Prime. It's just the which is
Is
a
that
Lord
the
of the
first
Rings
one or
game.
the second one? Yeah.
I think is it War? I think it's the first one or the second one.
War.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the Lord of the Rings
That's
games are free.
I think that's the one I bought it years ago on PS4 and never played it. And then the other day I saw it not knowing it was for an Amazon Prime. I bought it on GOG had a sale and it was like $4.99, so I bought it on there.
Oh yeah, it's free now.
Oh well. Now I get it on Amazon. Great. Thanks, Amazon.
Um,
I might as well get it with my Prime.
yeah, honestly. So again, I'm enjoying the show for the most part. I just think they're adding stuff from the old stuff, like a couple things, like a little hints of the show. For example, Doran Worf. I mean, obviously
Mhm.
he's
Durin's in this?
yeah, Duran the Fourth is in
Really?
this. Yes, he is a
Yeah,
friend of
he was
Elrond, the elf. He's friends with him.
I think it was one of the two. It was either The Hobbit or in the Mines of Moria. Durin is spoken a lot, and I only just saw the movie. That's why it's still pretty fresh.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's interesting. I guess it's a part I've never. I only read now, and it's been a while. But The Hobbit and then Fellowship prior to the movie's announcement coming out. I think I had to read The Hobbit in school. I don't know, and then the movies got me so excited. I read Two Towers and Return of the King, and at that point, Two Towers is fine. Return of the King I felt was hard to get through. I can't remember which one it was, but they split it. It's not like the movies where the Two Towers is a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It was like
Yeah.
I don't remember which one, but it was like all of Sam and Frodo was in one book, and then all of the rest of Gimli and Aragorn and then was in another one.
Jeez.
One was more interesting than the other. I just don't remember which one. That said, I never read the Silmarillion or all the appendices that I think a lot of the Second Age is built from.
The
I'm
Silmarillion's
not
like the lore of
confident.
everything before.
Yeah, that's the first. I think that's the first age.
You
I'm
know,
not again. No, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that's yeah.
I've got a buddy that has read it all and knows it really well. I should have brought him on tonight. I didn't even think about it. He would be able to school us on all this stuff.
All right,
Uh,
so right quick,
yeah.
a Swedish company called Embracer Group on August 18th acquired Middle Earth Enterprises, which owns worldwide rights to the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit film trilogies, as well as other properties related to the books by J.R.R. Tolkien. So now they have
Interesting.
everything. It looks like so. I don't know. I don't know what that
Oh,
means.
Why
Yeah.
didn't Amazon just buy it? I don't understand.
yeah. They're the ones with the money.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. It's
Bezos
stupid.
has
Like
the
I
money.
don't.
He's making the show about it. Why not put forth the effort and buy the rights?
They put so much. This is the most expensive show ever made.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would go all in and not buy the complete rights to it.
I know.
It's
What are they
stupid.
getting? Another year of Prime subscribers? I mean,
I,
people. I really don't
I don't
understand
know.
Amazon's. We're getting off topic here, but I don't understand
Yeah,
Amazon's model too much because they got started because of shipping, free shipping and delivery of stuff.
yeah,
That turns you into an entertainment making source. Okay. So you making this expensive show retains people free shipping? I mean, what is it they're I feel like they could not make any of this stuff and still be just as fine as a company. It's just
I
a
still
weird
think the
thought.
best show Amazon made is The Boys.
yeah.
That's a
I haven't
good
It
watched
show.
that.
is. It is. It is.
One day
No
I'll
doubt.
watch it. When Marvel really takes the absolute bottom, rock bottom, I'll start The Boys
You could start that right now. I'm telling
It's
you,
on its
it's
way.
so
I
it's
don't
so
know.
good.
next year. Phase 4 is rough, but all right, way off
All right,
topic. Let's get
way off
Yeah, yeah,
topic.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
We're
all right.
come on.
Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. How crazy is it that really? I mean, we thought about this years ago. Buck and I
Yeah,
used to talk about it's the fantasy version of Star Wars. I mean, that's a very loose way to put it, but it's adventure and questing and
Yeah.
fighting and sword fighting. No spaceships, but you get it. So l- let's go to the Star Wars franchise and how it sort of was the first real franchise. It movies that people went and saw a million more than several times. Could go home, kids could buy toys. There was great music to buy for it. Tie-in TV shows and stuff. I mean, at the time it's more like cartoons. Then tie-in movies with the Ewoks, and it just put such an impact on things. And I honestly don't think I've seen that again since the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Peter Jackson's that is. It did the same thing. Like you could go and people were obsessing over trading cards, action figures, board games, video games especially. They did a great slew of video games based off of those movies.
Mhm.
Um, have you seen anything since then that's even close to coming up with that big of a following after the movies? That's one of the reasons this thing matches for me.
I mean, Harry Potter possibly, but
You're right.
I'm not a huge fan of Harry Potter. I like the films. I've never read the books, but I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan like I was with Lord of the
Mm.
Rings. So yeah,
Funny you say that too, because that's almost a similar. That could be like the tertiary version of what we're talking about here. Because then we
yeah,
got the Fantastic Beasts, which
yeah.
didn't have the same following either.
That's
It's kind of
true.
like a
That's true.
prequel yet again,
Yeah,
and it's lesser than the Hobbit
yeah.
prequels and the Star Wars prequels. We always go back to they
That's
want to
true.
make prequels and then they're not as good. And
Yeah,
then so what's next for Harry Potter? They sell it to Universal and then Universal reboots it and changes everything. That's the in the pattern, you know. Well, I guess it had didn't. It's not like Star Wars said we're done with this canon. They just made it so unbelievably different that most people were like, it doesn't even feel like canon. This is fan fiction. You know, the sequels, 7, 8, 9. I mean,
yeah.
so all right. So Lord of the Rings. I guess Marco, you're pretty young. I'm not sure if this will be the right one to start you with, but how old were you when you saw Fellowship?
Oof. A Fellowship? I probably saw it for the first time without even knowing what I was probably when I was like, but obviously watching it again as a teenager, I appreciated the movie more. Um, and I really enjoyed them. Being, I remember just me and my brother just going around in the house pretending to be Smeagol and Hobbit and like just imitating the movie a lot because
Yeah.
we love the movie so much. Um, playing Lord of the Rings games after watching the movies in general, but the movie itself I really enjoyed. I love Gandalf, acting, story itself. There's nothing else like it.
They cast everybody really well. Yeah.
It's it, Again, it's very hard to replicate Lord of the Rings, and the world is
Yeah.
so expansive and so huge that you can just go for years just learning
Hmm.
about everything that they've involved in that. How much detail Tolkien put into the world. I think
Right.
that's why to this day it's probably one of the most well thought out worlds, like fantasy
Yeah.
world.
Yeah, you're right. There's like no stone unturned. You like I remember hearing about this in the making ofs and stuff, but basically like every tree has a name. Every weapon for
Yeah.
sure has a name. You know, every damn horse has a special, history behind it.
Very detailed. Everything is
Yeah.
detailed to like the yeah.
My fiance has a
Yeah.
replica of the Sting sword.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where it is.
Should have pulled that
I
out,
should have
yeah.
pulled it out. Dang
Cool.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it glow when orcs are near?
No. There's no orcs. Oh, was it no? Yeah, it was orcs. Or was it goblins that are in? No, that's a goblin.
Yeah. In in Lord of the Rings, Bilbo says when orcs are near, and then in Hobbit, I think Gandalf takes note and says when orcs and goblins are near because they have to be sure where they're about to get right up next to some goblins, so they didn't want to confuse
Right.
anybody, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So right, it was so detailed, and I think you had someone like Peter Jackson who appreciated it and knew that and dug in deep, and he pulled out what he could for the screen. I don't think you can adapt directly from a book every time because it's
No.
gonna be different, you know?
Especially a book like that. I mean, it'll be
Yeah.
difficult. Yeah.
You gotta decide what to do. There was a character, I remember this years ago, and I for the life of me, I can't think of the name. I'm no Tolkien fans will shout it out loud here, but it was like Tom
Yeah.
Bambadil or some
I remember
Tom
that too. Yeah.
yeah, he was a weird character that they stopped and hung out with, and I remember in the Hobbit movie, especially just a couple weeks ago when I watched it, they came across that guy who was like the werebear. Do you remember this guy?
Yeah.
And I thought when they were coming to, I was like, "Oh, I think this is gonna be Tom. What's his name?" And then, nope, it was someone else. So that's just an example of they had to change it. If I
Mhm.
recall, when everything was said and done at the end of the third book, Saruman or Wormtongue ran off and took hostage some folks in the Shire, I think, or Hobbiton. and that's not in the movies. I think they decided, we'll end it with the ring being done and move along from there. So I get it. There's things that are gonna be different, and they got to cut it out. I mean, as long as they
Yeah.
made those movies, especially the extended versions, they cut out a lot too. So, um, all right. So Lord of the Rings happened. It was kind of a it went on around the same time as the prequels too, which is funny because it was more like, what are you really a fan of these days? The new Star Wars movies or the Lord of the Rings? Because one is clearly a little more quality than the other, at least at the time.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, anything further on just how much the Hobbit? I mean, the games. Let's talk about the video games for a minute. They were really good, and most movie adaptations suck. Let's face it. I mean, they've gotten
Yes.
better over the years.
No,
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
games are great. I
The
love the
games are great.
games.
There's
Yeah.
a new one coming out called Gollum. I don't know how I feel about it.
Mm,
I don't know how I feel about that because it's very the graphics are okay. It's just the story itself. I don't know how far they can go with Golem. You know what I mean? With Gollum. Just
me neither.
I don't know how far it's gonna go. Might be like a 5 hour gameplay, and then that's not
Perhaps.
exciting.
And what is it gonna be, like, his history of everything we didn't see him do?
Right?
Or is it
Yeah,
gonna
it's
be
everything
Yeah, I don't
before the
know.
Lord of the
Is
Rings,
it is
basically.
it is it gonna be him just crawling in the caves looking
It's
crazy?
basically
I don't know.
like a he's sneaking around everywhere. That's it. I don't know
Yeah.
what the story is involved in it, but
Eking.
Uh,
Alright. Well, the first one I think we all remember was the Two Towers adaptation, or the game, video game for the Two Towers, which was great. Good graphics. It felt like being each one of those characters. That one I don't remember, PlayStation 2 or Xbox, was one of the two. Probably PlayStation 2. Buck, how about you? You played
n-
I don't know if I
n-
played Return of the King. Did you do that one?
I have both. Yeah, but Two Towers was the first one that I remember when they showed the making of it before the game came out. I was like, "Holy crap!" Just the way it was done. It looks so cool. It was something I'd never seen before on PlayStation 2. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was great. And then Return of the King was very similar. I mean, as far as the game wise, but yeah, they were both great. I love both games. Um, it's funny
yeah,
because they're kind of
should
similar
be.
to Revenge of the Sith game when it came out too. The mechanics were very similar. But yeah, yeah, they were great. They're great games. I have a lot of fun memories playing those games. You know,
Seems like
sorry, and it's hard to like get video games that are based off movies that are actually good, and those games are really good. So yeah,
right on.
yeah,
I never played the Third Age. I wanted to. I remember they had a great. Maybe it was when you bought the Fellowship of the Ring, the first DVD. It had John Rhys Davies, Gimli's voice, doing this EA Electronic Arts ad for the three first games that are coming out, and he was, pushing the Lord of the Rings and Two Towers and the Return of the King and the Third Age and Battle for Middle Earth. It was that one was really good. I was a real time strategy fan, and Battle of Middle Earth was like a StarCraft, a Warcraft. You're building up your armies and you're sending them
Yeah.
out to, you know,
yeah,
that was great. That was a good. I don't know if anyone got around to that one. It's PC only, I think. That was the tough part there. You had to have a computer
Oh
at
yeah,
the
I
time.
remember also playing Lord of the Rings online.
I did play that for a minute. I think at the time I was more into Star Wars Galaxies and eventually World of Warcraft, but I tried
yeah,
Lord of the Rings online. Yeah.
yeah,
Yup.
yeah. World of Warcraft just took over anything that even was remotely the same,
Normally tried.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's no competition. Yeah,
Nope.
No, actually, for me,
You
it
had
was Wizards 101. I like
it was
that
what?
game. Wizards
yeah,
101.
but that
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 game was
came a little
great.
late. That came a little later, though. I
Yeah, it did.
mean,
It did. It
yeah,
came. It came after World.
yeah.
Lizards 101? Oh,
Wizards.
Wizards.
never heard of that.
It's like
Wizards.
an MMO where it's like you play as a wizard and you have like it's like a card game. You like playing. It's basically like Yu-Gi-Oh mixed with Harry Potter. That's all it was.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard of
You had like a school and you picked it. I spent a lot of money
it.
on it.
A little shit.
Yep.
Uh, well, let's see. Lord of the Rings ended, and then it was quiet for a while. Just that's Lord of the Rings. I guess we all thought that was a trilogy. That was nice. And then I guess when did it even end? 2003 or
5.
four,
Oh,
Well,
5.
2003 when it ended because it was back to back. It started in
Yep.
2001
that's
up
Yep.
right.
to
Yep.
2003.
You're
Yeah,
right. You're
yeah.
Which was that was before Revenge of the Sith came out. So I guess we kind of just shifted years back to Star
Yeah,
Wars.
Revenge was
Yeah.
2005.
Mhm.
Yep. And then after that, it was like both franchises went cold for a
Yeah, we're like,
while.
okay, I guess we're just
Yeah.
relying on
Into
Marvel
that.
for now. That's it.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, little Marvel
Yeah.
movies started popping up. Yeah, a few years
Mhm.
later was Iron Man. You're right. So
Yep,
the MCU was not
2008.
far behind.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So around that same time, maybe and I guess Avatar came out. That kind of for me was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot about everything else before that.
2009 was it?
9. Yep. That's funny. That's coming out again too now. It's all coming back. Ring
Mhm.
theory. See what I did there?
Mhm.
Ring. I was gonna say. Sometime we got word that Hobbit's coming out. It's like what? Maybe 2010, 2011. We got rumor, and it was probably 2012 or 13 when the first Hobbit movie came out. And there was a minute of a pretty good excitement. I was really excited.
Yeah.
I saw the cat. I can't remember what's the actor's name who was young Bilbo. Oh man,
Martin. Martin
yep,
Sheen? No, not Martin. Martin something. Oh, that
Freeman.
Freeman.
No,
Martin
yeah,
Freeman. I think it's it. Yeah.
nice. So I thought that was a good cast for him, and I like that they brought in old Ian Holmes for a minute just to be old
Oh,
Bilbo, and then
and Gandalf was coming back. So
Gandalf. Yeah. Oh yeah, we had
when
Elrond.
Gollum was gonna be in it, we saw. So it was like, oh man,
Yep,
yeah.
and Andy Serkis, Kate Blanchett, um,
Hmm.
Agent Smith. I don't know why I can't think of his name right
You
now.
got Benedict Cumberbatch as Smaug.
So that was fun.
Well,
I didn't even know
yeah,
that
yeah.
until I watched it this most recent
Oh,
time.
really?
And yeah, and at the time I was like, "Who the hell's?" I probably wouldn't have known him by name except for
Yeah.
Horatio Hornblower. Um, let's see. It just kind of fizzled for me though. Like I don't know how to say it. I was watching Smog in the theater. Got to a point in my life where I was pretty tired all the time, and that
Yeah,
air conditioning in the summer. I don't remember when it was. It's like I fell asleep, and I had no desire to ever want to continue it. And I
I
didn't pick it
agree.
up again until 2 weeks ago.
After the first
8 years
Hobbit,
later, 10 years
after the
later.
first Hobbit, I remember watching it. Wow, this is. I was excited to see where it was gonna go. I mean, I read the book when I was younger, so I was like, wow, this is great. I'm excited. Smog's gonna shit up
Yeah,
and
Big
everything.
Dragon.
Yeah,
It's gonna be amazing.
that
Yeah.
was a cliffhanger. That's it. They left it at that. And then I watched the second movie, and it kind of just flew by after like 20 minutes. Like the whole thing with Smog, and I don't know. I just felt like the rest of the movie was boring. Right? It was just like, and then I don't even remember Five Arms. I saw it once. I know Thorn was going through it with that stone, whatever it was.
Right.
I
I
can't
don't even remember
remember.
what they call it.
In Rings of Power now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it
Oh,
is.
Durin. Yeah, yeah. Durin's. How about that? What you, Buck? I know the Hobbits. You feel about the same.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just it's like you said, man. I feel Peter Jackson just went through the same trap as George Lucas. I think they went overboard. He went overboard with The Hobbit. I like you, Marco. I loved the first one. I thought was great. I really did. I saw the first one a couple of times. I remember. Um, Smog, the second one.
Desolation. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. Same thing happened to me. I saw it in the theater and I could not get through it. It just felt so
It
stretched
really.
out. Towards the end when they were all in the cave. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, but they were in a cave with the dragon and the cutscenes back and forth, back and I mean it took forever. And I'm like, wow, this is just really dragged out. So I couldn't even get through it in the theater. I saw it again, I think a year later at home. But yeah, it didn't do anything for me. And then the third one, like you, Marco, again, I saw it once in theater. I'm like, it was all right. It was good. I mean, it again. The problem is he relied too much on CGI, and it was off. It was such a difference between the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit.
Well,
You could tell
George Lucas. Yeah.
he did the same thing that George Lucas did, and it didn't. You could tell it looked fake. A lot of it just looked very blue green screen and like yeah it didn't look as real like the locations and just like in Lord of the Rings it didn't feel real. So it wasn't that it was
Yeah.
awful, it wasn't, it didn't feel as good, not nearly as epic. And the Hobbit story wasn't supposed to be, it should have been just one movie,
It
that's all
should
it should have
exactly. It
been.
was only one book.
And yeah, and that's where he went overboard. But
But yeah, the only real special thing that happened in that story is the ring was found.
yeah.
They
That's it.
discovered the ring and they pulled it out. I
Yeah.
guess the dragon dies. That's another big one. If that dragon was still around, it would have been interesting. But
Yeah.
um, that's it. So, like you said, it's a kid's book. I mean, young adult, whatever. It's not terribly long. You can get through it pretty fast. And he made it long. And
Long.
I
Yeah.
just I get that part of it. Now, what's funny is all the extra stuff, which I think the new show's getting criticized for making up stuff. Seems like Peter
Mhm.
Jackson made up a few things.
He did.
At the time, he was criticized for it. Similarly, with George Lucas, was like, people
Yeah.
were, "What are you doing? This is not the same Star Wars I grew up with."
Hmm.
Um, but funny then versus now. Now it's fresh. I'm not sitting here. I wasn't anticipating my watch of The Hobbit recently, but I enjoyed this series of films actually more than both you guys did then, more than I did then. So I almost feel like it deserves a second chance because now that the dust has settled, watch it after Rings of Power if you think there's like, yeah, I want a little more Lord of the Rings in me. I think you'd be I think you'd be okay with it. If take your time, enjoy it because it was look at the prequels. I look back at them now as like, they're okay. They've got their issues, but it's not the worst thing ever. So that's just my thoughts. Now, funny you say the episode 2 because what's y'all's least favorite prequel movie?
Oh, prequel? Well,
No, let's say let me clear that up. Funny you said Desolation of Smog, the second Hobbit movie, is your
yeah,
least favorite.
yeah.
What's your least favorite prequel movie?
For Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, but did you
Yeah,
like the first episode? Of
I
course.
did. Yeah.
We all liked the first one. The second one hit a nosedive, took a nosedive,
Yeah.
and then the third one you're like, okay, I'm back.
No, well, I mean,
No,
no. Revenge of the Sith,
I
that was
like
my
I
favorite.
like Revenge of the
So
Sith a
yeah,
lot. Yeah.
yeah. So that was a little, yeah.
Attack of
I
the
guess I'm
Clones.
speaking for me. I was a little disappointed still with Revenge of the Sith. Not as I was. At the time I was like, there's so much he didn't tell. There's a lot of
I
story that's
mean,
just on the table
yeah.
unanswered. That was me at the time. I'm
Mhm.
not pushing that on anyone else. I remember walking out going, oof, I like parts of it, but why didn't
You wanted more. Yeah.
yeah. I was like, wait, we're just gonna see him turn into Vader and that's it? Like I always go back to I wish he would have turned into Vader at the end of episode 2, and then we got to see a year of him or a movie of him as a fresh Vader. At the
Yeah.
time, I had no idea we would ever get shows or anything where we'd see him again. I just thought,
We're never getting that.
yeah, yeah, I don't want even
Yeah.
to go there. So yeah. All right. So I think it's so far this little theory's kind of on point. Uh,
Yeah.
let's go back real quick to the original trilogy, Lord of the Rings. Does it compare to your favorite, like let's say Fellowship, Two Towers, Return of the King, Episode 4, 5, and 6? Is there a parallel there as well? Because I kind of feel to me it's first one's very exciting. The second one was absolutely my favorite on both those trilogies, and the third one's like the balanced ending.
Ye- Yeah, yes and no. Here's the thing. As much as I love Star Wars, especially the original, I mean, that will always be my favorite. It just will be. Whether it's if you're gonna verse quality and everything, I don't care. But let's be real. The Lord of the Rings trilogy is probably the best trilogy ever made. It,
Trilogies,
it,
yeah.
it is. It is. I'm sorry. So three of them are so damn good. They really are. I mean, to pinpoint out like which is my favorite one, yeah, I will probably say the Two Towers is my favorite. But I'd have to really analyze it like a
Yeah.
lot. I didn't have to analyze as much as with Star Wars. Star Wars, I knew Empire is the best. I like Return of the Jedi too, but Empire is the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a little tough. Yeah, but I would say you're right. Yeah, I would say Two Towers is my favorite. Um, and then Return of the King is my second, and Fellowship is my third. Which it's hard to say, man.
It's really
It's
hard to
tough.
say.
Hard to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Because none of them surely deserve that last place position because they're all really good.
Well, funny story. The only reason I put Fellowship last is because when I first saw it in the theaters, I didn't like it.
Oh, really?
I
Tell
didn't
me
like
about
it.
this.
Well, because here's the thing. I didn't know much about Lord of the Rings. I only knew about it, okay, it was part of the Hobbit, sort of. At the time, I didn't know it was gonna be a trilogy that they were gonna tell over time the next 3 years. I just thought, okay, so this is the first movie, I'm sure they'll have sequels. I didn't know it was gonna end as such a cliffhanger, and I'm like, what the crap is this? Like, what the hell even happened?
I remember my dad said that. Well, he knew it
Yeah.
was a book, but he got to that part of the movie. He's like, "Oh God, I have to stop now." Like he was so frustrated with that. Yeah,
Right. So I was confused. I didn't know what was happening, what was gonna happen. So later on, and I got it on DVD to give it another shot and actually bought it. And then I knew the second one was going to come out like within a year, and all of a sudden it just started like, oh my god, this movie is amazing. And I saw it so many times on DVD, and then after that, that's
Yeah.
when I knew everything was connected. But yeah, it's hard because they're all such great films. I mean, they're
And
class, so good.
let's take a moment right there. So after Fellowship, you
Yeah.
started that was what you had. So you watched it again and again, you watched the behind the scenes, you get
Oh
into
yeah.
the franchise, you start buying stuff. And that reminds me of a really happy time. I think even you said this, Marco, when the sequel trilogy started and after The Force Awakens, there was this rejuvenation of like, God, I love this series. Star Wars is great. And you start that was when people were actually buying stuff at Target for Star Wars. You know, you bought little BB-8s and
Yeah.
it was Star Wars was back, and that's that Lord of the Rings moment where there's a lot of cool stuff out there. You can kind of get into it and learn a little more on the sides from the games, and if you hadn't read it, you picked up the books and started getting into it, and it was expansive, and there was a lot of mystery for some of us who hadn't gone through the whole story. It was just a neat time. Um, yeah. So that's now that we're talking about something really nice and good. That lull after the Hobbit, I guess New Line, their contract was up. They didn't make another movie, so per contract, it had to get sold. Someone else buys it, Amazon in this case. All right, stop there. Lucas, George Lucas, around 2012, 7 years after Revenge of the Sith, he took a lot of ridicule for the prequels and had enough and said, I think in his, I don't know if he's ever gone out and said it, but he was, I think at one point he did have an interview where he basically said, I got put down so much for this. I'm so sad about it. I don't even want it anymore. Fine, take it. Someone sell it. I'm gonna donate the money. And like I
Yeah.
felt really, I remember hearing that. And it's just like I saw that interview. It's like, ugh. I kind of had a bad feeling in my stomach. Like I almost feel responsible for this. But I heard
Yeah.
Disney bought it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. When I
Sure.
heard Disney bought it, I actually was pretty excited at that point.
Yeah, we all were.
We all
Yeah.
were.
Yeah, I was like, "Well, who better to take it over?" Because we grew up in Florida, and we've been to the parks and Disney, kinda like Universal has a contract with Warner Brothers and Harry Potter. Disney had the Star Wars attraction contract, so if you wanted to do a Star Wars ride, you're gonna go do Star Tours at, MGM Studios, right? That's what they used to call it. Um,
I mean,
and it was
sorry.
good. No,
Even
that's
then, like hearing that Disney bought Star Wars, I was just genuinely excited because I knew at the time Disney had a very good reputation with its movies. I mean, especially like Pirates of the Caribbean. I remember all the Marvel movies, like all the stuff that they made prior. I was like, okay, Star Wars might actually be in good hands, and I was excited. I remember when the Force Awakens trailer came out, I was showing
oh god.
everyone on my laptop, like, this is crazy. What's going on? That's a crossguard lightsaber. What? Like, it was a
Yeah.
cool. I was hyped, like a little bit too hyped, but still, I was super, super,
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
hyped. It was a
Yeah.
great time to be a Star Wars fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weird time. I was
Yeah,
a Kathleen Kennedy fan
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
go on. Sorry about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, you're right. Excuse me. So, similar story. They both sold it. I can't say that. I don't know who exactly was the one that let it go, or who didn't make the call. Let's go ahead and make another Hobbit related movie or Lord of the Rings movie. And they said, "No, let's just we're done with it." So essentially, though, two companies, Disney and Amazon, have their suits that we like to talk about jumped on that like flies on shit. They said that's a moneymaker. Each of these licenses carries with it billions of dollars and we're gonna leverage that into money in our pockets because we know how it is. The suits we call them suits for a reason. They're not there because they truly care about the lore. I don't think this is my opinion, I guess, but I feel like you have someone like Peter Jackson and George Lucas. They cared whether it worked out or not. Their ultimate passion was how well they made the story for the fans. When an acquisition happens, just think of it like that. It's literally buying something. When you spend a lot of money, you better make that money back. Their goal, both of them, is to make that damn money back. And what each of them did is this is I think my opinion, but I think there's a lot of founded truth to this, is I think they both said they started making advertising and marketing campaigns that state, "We're here for a new audience. We wanna open this up to a new audience." Maybe not say totally ditch the old people. I think Lord of the Rings people said that recently, but Star Wars, it was more like Star Wars isn't just for me, my memories growing up. I remember that, but it's for my children and their children. Disney tried to say this is for everyone should enjoy Star Wars. And they did it. They tried. I can't say they did it, but they opened it up and they got more diverse characters, females in the front. And they did all this stuff that was a little more so than they had in the past. We can't deny a few things. Carrie Fisher was a female on the front, and they made her front and center a major character in the trilogy. Okay, so I don't want to ever hear that that wasn't the case. Samuel Jackson was a lead role in the prequels, right? We had diversity. We had Jimmy Smits. They made some good calls that I thought were fine in the prequels. In the sequels, I didn't have that issue. I didn't have an issue. I don't even have an issue right now, other than I've not seen Rings of Power, and I just want to know how they're doing what they're doing. You know, um, Star Wars is a modern setting. I said it's a long time ago, but it's not isolated to continents. Globalization happens there. You can move around, and people can be completely alien next to human. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
So the diversity in Star Wars is completely founded. It should be there. I don't understand some of what I'm seeing in Rings of Power, because if maybe you guys can tell me, and I don't care about spoilers. We have people that look not the same as everyone around them. Is there an explanation for that? Because in Game of Thrones, they at least said a continent away is this family, and this is what people look like here, and that's why they're here now. They've moved over here. Is that not how it is?
In Rings of Power, they do mention a lot of traversing, a lot of like origins as to where some people are from.
Okay, that's important. I'm glad they do that.
Yes, they set, and even a groups of people going back to their place of origin and then just going back.
That's
And
all
then
you need.
yeah,
As long as they explain it, I'm fine with that. You
See,
know?
I didn't even catch all that yet. I mean, seeing it. So
yeah.
that's actually a good detail. I didn't
There's a
notice
lot
that. Yeah.
of background heritage that's talked about, especially in the elves, and not so much on the new hobbits, but they're not gonna explain that in the show. I think they're just gonna go with what they are. They're never gonna explain what the new hobbits are. They're just, you have to look that information up yourself.
Yeah.
That's just something you have to look up on your own. I'm not gonna explain the show.
Maybe they will.
I don't think they will. Because a hobbit doesn't exist in this
Well,
world. It's a Harfoot. That's what it is.
here's the thing: the diverse thing with the show, it doesn't really. I mean, it doesn't really affect me in a way because like I said, I'm not a Tolkien purist. I'm not sure if there were any, black elves, Hispanic elves. I don't know. I don't know exactly where they came from or anything like that. Same with the dwarves or anything like that. So it's kind of hard to say. Oh, well, this isn't accurate. I really don't know. So I'm
I,
watching the show as it is. So
I'm
that's
not
how.
saying like it's supposed to be spelled out in his words and then that's translated. It's more like, let's just look at us here today. All of us, the three of us, have a tan. And why is that? Did we come from Ireland or the
Well,
British Isles?
I went to the beach this weekend. That's why I got 10.
I was born
I
this
don't
way.
Yeah, born this way, right? My point is, when you go back before ships and planes, people all looked alike where they're from, right? And globalization's happened where we can move around, and that's why America looks the way it does. I think when you go back to a fantasy land, literally, it's ships exist, but it's got to be very subtle to show that sort of cross, you know, uh, I guess not only there's species and race in there. We've got elves, humans, dwarves, hobbits, whatever they're called. And then within there, you have to have the same species of different races. So therefore, on continents and the way the climate is why we all evolve and look different the way we do. Um, you can't make you're unless you procreate with someone that looks different, you're not going to look different. It takes evolution, millions of years to change how we look. So it's a little. I got to be careful because I want to. There's thing. I'm very sensitive to the fact that I know Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings didn't have any races. I mean, and let's not just talk about, blacks. I don't remember seeing Asians in there. I can't say I saw any Hispanics in there to my knowledge. Maybe there were. I think in Hobbit he noticed it a little bit because I saw in Lake Town there was some races. There you saw a few races amongst the humans. So maybe he was a little bit aware and said, "I think I can find a way to make this work." I've just seen it, so I saw with my own eyes. He did try a little bit. But think about it when we were kids. At least me and him, me and you. Princesses, Disney princesses. We didn't. There wasn't a black Disney princess until I don't know. Maybe it was in high school or college. I that was long. Oh, God, I was graduated. I don't know. It was a long time, but without any of that though, right? So
Yeah.
I can't imagine being, a little black girl and wondering how come there's no black princesses. It really does, like, having kids. That's like a very like sad thing to think about to me.
Yeah.
It's like that they didn't have that. So it's awesome that that's come to be, and I could relate that a bit to the Lord of the Rings now. It's like, hey, I like this stuff. How come I don't see, if I'm a black guy, how come I don't see an elf, a black little boy or a girl? So I'm not trying to say that's insensitive. I just if they it's fantasy, so it means there were no planes. There's no way to easily get people there. This traversing bit you're talking about makes sense. And I'm glad they actually addressed it because sometimes when it's just questions, it's like, come on, you didn't explain that well enough. Let's not pin it on the nose that we're trying to do this in this modern age. Let's show why people look different. And if you're gonna have people that do look different in that show, explain that they came from this area and we had some traders or something of that nature that would actually maybe it's not in Tolkien's world, but maybe it would fit it, to the canon. It just doesn't stand out so much. And I think once people explain stuff, I said this about The Last Jedi, sorry, or any of those sequels, explain a little bit, even if it's a bad explanation, at least you gave it a shot to say, here's why we are the way we are now. So I don't know, any thoughts on that before I kind of move on?
No, I mean, what you're saying is true. I mean, especially with Peter Jackson and in his movies, you're right. There wasn't a lot of diversity in those movies. Um, and I think he did get slack for that. And that's why The Rings of Power is trying to make up for it. But I will never understand why Star Wars got so much for it because to me, Star Wars has always been diversified, always
Yeah.
been. I
And
don't know,
female strength.
females
Yeah.
and everything. I never to this day will understand why it's like, oh, we're trying to branch. What are you talking about? Star Wars has always been that way. Lord of the Rings hasn't. It hasn't. So
Right.
yeah, I get it. I mean, if Rings of Power is trying to do that, there should be some kind of explanation as to why
And
the racial, well, which is fine. Why can't they just explain it? You know?
or just, yeah, like it answers, it kind of stops people throwing it out there like you're just doing this because it's like, well, we might be wanting to diverse this situation, true, but we're tying it into the canon a little bit as best we can here.
Yeah.
And one thing I remember this from the behind the scenes movies is some of the only black people they had were orcs. It's just like, damn, if you want to be in Lord of the Rings, you got to be an orc. And it's like
Yeah.
that's kind of
Yeah.
messed up, when
It
you really think about it.
is.
It's like you're the
Yeah.
gross, nasty villains.
Yeah.
That's like that was what it was. Like it's,
Yeah. That's
damn.
not good.
That's not good.
So
It's not good. I mean,
Yeah.
that's yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that is what it is. So yeah, Star Wars, I don't understand, but I guess my point is, these two companies said the new frontier of money is a new audience, and it's really like time will tell when it comes to Rings of Power. We're only 2 episodes in, but if they don't stick with story and they end up just doing what Star Wars did and let's make it pretty, let's make it great, but
Yeah.
then audiences are like, what the hell am I watching? Why is it so different than the character that should have been written? Even if they haven't read it, people know that now. Like they realize,
Hey.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we all liked Force Awakens when it came out. I can speak for most of us at least. We all really
Yeah.
liked it. So
Oh, we
season
did,
one
yeah.
might be a hit, and then by the time season two comes, we're like, what are we doing here again? We've got like 2,000 years before anything exciting is supposed to happen. Maybe not. Maybe there's more, or maybe they'll make it.
I don't
You
know,
know,
man. I don't. I think it might even happen in the first season. I think by how many episodes is
Yeah.
it? Do we know?
I think it's 8.
8 episodes. I think by
that's
episode.
not much.
I think by
It's
episode
not
six.
much.
I think by
Yeah,
episode
and
six
actually,
that it's gonna get like.
someone's actually was saying that in the end, it would be shorter than the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy, Peter Jackson's. So it's like I hope they have a kind of like tie up ending because we don't know what's gonna be renewed for season 2. I have no idea.
Depends on how well it does.
So
And
I mean,
That's
yeah,
an interesting thought. It's shorter than the trilogy.
I mean, the
The
trilogy's
extended
long.
extended
trilogy's long,
cuts,
especially extended
especially.
cut, but they're all 3 hours long, just
Yeah,
regular without it.
yeah.
So
I
yeah,
think it's 256, 257, and 313.
Damn.
yeah.
So
So Yeah, I mean, well, I think a lot of the concern also with the show is the fact that it's not so much also the whole diversity and let's focus on diversity and let's not forget the story because that's what Star Wars did. It kind of just focused on that, which is great, but they forgot about the story and they didn't put any thought into it.
Yeah.
With this, a lot of it also has to do with the fact that a lot of pure Token fans aren't happy with the way the characters they know are being portrayed. It's not accurate timeline wise or anything like that. So that's another thing. It's like this is just all just a money push because they just want to put their own thing in there. It doesn't matter what the fans think, or they don't care. They just can do their own story, and that's that. Even if it doesn't make sense. So,
Yeah,
but for people like me, I don't know if it is going to make sense because I don't know how the story is supposed to go in
and
that
it's
time.
probably
So
you're probably a good audience for that because it's in the end you're just like I don't really care. I'm
yeah,
I'm enjoying what they're showing me because it's new to me and
right.
it's close enough related. You were telling me that. I mean, maybe you can explain this better, but you're like, it doesn't. I could tell when it's not Peter Jackson, but you're like, it's so far in the past. Maybe it could, if your mind, if you trick it that way, it could be tied to the
It's
same canon.
it's possible because again, this takes place thousands of years before any of that stuff happens. So this is a different time. Things were different. It's I know it's a different universe, obviously, but it's not really hard to kind of trick your mind into thinking if you really wanted to, it could be tied depending how it ends. Who knows? But again, even if it's not, it doesn't matter because the good thing, the difference between Star Wars and this is that this is completely disconnected. So if this is complete dog shit. I don't think it should really hurt pure fans of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings because that's disconnected. Peter Jackson movies will be preserved and untouched. So if this ends up being complete ass, who cares? Like they just failed. Like what a bunch of dumbasses. Really, they really tried to make a thing out of this and they failed. Oh well.
It's almost too big to
Eh,
fail.
Oh, it probably won't. But I mean, look,
I hear you though. We're,
I just yeah.
you were gonna say something?
No.
Oh, all right. We've talked about this over this past week, especially how we came up with this topic. So,
Yeah.
I know most of how you feel, but I guess for sake of all of us chatting about it, You I'm not ready for the show yet, and I've decided to make the call to not watch it, at
Yeah.
least right now, because I only just watched The Hobbits. I finished, I watched half of the Hobbit movies this past couple weeks, and I enjoyed them from starting them as a 40-year-old, I guess. I like them more than I liked them then, and it's because it's still fresh. I almost want a wider gap between the Jackson canon and anything new right now. I I remember when Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man was over, around the same time I guess Batman, they decided to restart Batman. I was okay with them doing Christian Bale's Batman because none of us liked Batman Robin and the movie before that,
It
Batman
needed
Forever.
it needed a reboot
It was ready for
desperately.
reboot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tobey Maguire, I know most people think it took a nosedive with 3. Um, but it had such a big following after 2 that I'm
Yeah.
surprised
I
they were
wasn't
like,
ready. I wasn't ready for Tobey to go
"Yeah."
yet. I wasn't ready. It was I
That was
mean, 3 movies, I thought he'd do much more than that. I was like,
Yeah, he
"Really?"
could have been it for a long time.
Yeah.
Granted, I
Yeah.
really liked Andrew Garfield a lot, and when I saw that, I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay, let's go with this direction." And then 2 movies and we're starting again, I was like, "Come on, again?" And what do you know, we all like Tom Holland, so the reboots there have been okay, it's just they didn't take a lot of time. I think it was within 10 to 15 years, we had 3 different Spider-Men, you know?
Yeah.
I don't Marvel made it work because they actually gave us that explanation we're looking for, "Oh, well, hey, they're all part of a different multiverse." Genius. That
Genius. Yeah.
that worked. You can't do that with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
This is the same
No. No,
universe.
no, no. Yeah.
You just decided we're gonna tell a different story. So, I'm not ready for it. I don't think I need it personally. Like, I'm not dying to watch it. The truth is, that's why I'm like, "You can spoil it for me. I really don't care." I'm just not dying for it. And maybe if it's gonna take the same thing as The Hobbit, give me some time and maybe when the whole series is done and they've done 10 seasons and I'm all right, now I can watch it beginning to end. I don't care. I hate to say it. I still am in love with Peter Jackson's universe and I like the music. I don't want to hear on this podcast actually, maybe 10 episodes ago, we asked the question, is it Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings or is it a new thing, a reboot? and I don't think any of us knew at the time.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I think 2 weeks before the show even started, we still didn't have a concrete answer to that. We
Yeah.
still didn't know. We're like, is this connected? I'm not really sure. I
They
don't
kept
know.
it a secret. They definitely
They
didn't wanna,
did.
like,
They
scare
did.
people off
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah.
Got us all hyped for it, and then they say, "Oh, by the way, it's not his." In fact, we kinda threw him out of the building that day.
Yeah, because then like a week before, I think a week before the show, Peter Jackson said, "Yeah, I want to talk about it, and I want them to consult me," and they completely ghosted me. The Amazon, they said no, they didn't want anything to do with me, so they didn't even talk to me about it.
Was there
So
another bearded guy that same thing happened to when a new company bought out a franchise and they wanted to make
I
movies
don't
about
know.
that?
Who?
Oh, I don't know. Sounds
A
familiar.
bearded guy. Hmm.
Yeah,
Kind of
that's weird.
white beard. White beard.
Yeah, it's funny how the bearded guys, that started it all and made the money for him originally, that they don't listen to him
I didn't
anymore. I
listen
wonder
to
how well
him.
that worked out.
They throw their scripts away.
Throw the scripts away. We don't care what you say. We have
You
our
know
own.
what? But we're talking shit. But honestly, when it happened to George at the time, we're like, good.
He
That's the
was
best
rough.
thing they can do.
Like,
We're like,
woo!
thank God. Now
See,
we're
and that's
turning our
why that's why he shed a tear and said, "I don't like you anymore," and he sold
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Now
But
we're
And
like, wait.
like,
now it's like we're that's a perfect example of be careful what you wish for
yep.
because
Thank you. You're right.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
you
And
pay
I
for
think
it. Yeah.
most of us felt. I mean, hell, I didn't even finish The Hobbit, so I'm probably like, I never crossed my mind. Maybe I was like, I guess The Hobbit or the Lord of the Rings. If it moves on, who
Imagine that.
cares? Yep.
Think about
Yeah.
that. We all wanted the person who made Star Wars not to.
Isn't that sad?
That's
What's wrong
sad.
with us?
We didn't even want him around as a consultant. We're just like, no, get him out. Because
Yeah. No
everyone
more
hates the
kids.
prequels. Yeah,
No
no
more
more
kid stories.
kids. No,
Make
no.
and that's why when 7 came out, for the most part, we saw its flaws, but we said this looks great. This sounds great.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It feels very Star Wars yet. It looks like it's going to go in a really cool direction. And then I don't want to like jinx it, I guess, for y'all's sake because you like it. But Rings of Power, so far so good. You gave it sevens. That's not bad.
7.4, 5.5.
Look. It's not to the point where I'm gonna force you to watch it. It's not
You
that
can watch
level.
it.
No, I
Yeah.
like it. Yeah,
Yeah. Classic.
nice. Don't drop it.
That's more Obi-Wan
Cla-
Kenobi merchandise than they have now. They have a show about it.
oh, wow. It's probably worth money. I bought this clearly a
Oh,
2005 plastic water cup.
yeah,
So, all right. Where are we with this story now? So we've pretty much gone full circle.
yeah. So you're not gonna watch the show, and you know what? I'm not gonna make you. It's not something that you have to go and run and
Honestly,
watch.
yeah, not super important right
So
now.
it's there's so much to watch. There's so many shows out there. And if I was to, I mean, if I literally loved it to the point where I'm like, oh my god, you don't know what
You
you're
would
doing,
you
you're
would tell
missing
me,
this.
yeah.
I would tell you.
You
I'd
would
make
tell
you
me.
watch. I would convince you
I'd
somehow to
believe you.
watch it.
And that
Because
would probably make me
yeah,
enticed to say if you I would believe both of you enough to be like, "Are you fucking with me right now or is it actually good?"
yeah.
Um,
Gandalf's in the show. Did you watch
I
it then?
heard.
He's not. No,
He's
that's
not.
bullshit.
He's not.
He's
It's not
not.
him. It's not him.
No,
It's a
that's why.
wizard. It's a wizard. It's
So
Yeah,
not
you
him.
there's a mystery character that some people think it might be him, but it's not. It's they haven't
s-
said it, so
maybe Saruman, I don't know it.
it
I
could
thought
be
I
a
don't think
bunch of people. Yeah,
I don't think those I don't remember, but I don't think those wizards were that old, but okay.
yeah.
Um what was it? I had a place I was going to go with this. It had to do with y'all were saying to watch it or not watch it. Son of a gun.
If
Just
if
plenty of
we
shows to watch.
if we
Yeah,
told you that to watch it, we told you that it was
yeah.
Oh, I
It
know, I
worse.
know.
was.
All right. So imagine now, this is what I've said. This is a part of my argument. If it turns out to be crap, I don't want when I do go back and watch Peter Jackson's. This is how my brain's gonna think. I know yours doesn't, Buck, but I'm gonna go see Elrond and Galadriel, and if they make a turn too sharp to turn back in a couple episodes or whenever it happens, and I don't like it, I don't want when I watch the old ones to think back to that because it'll forever stain. It's a memory. It's gonna be hard to drop. So I relate it to imagine if you could at this point go back and not watch the sequel trilogy. Wouldn't you have rather that you never saw the damn thing and that it didn't have to force it out of your brain because it would never be there. There's a part of me that's afraid this is going to do the same thing and I don't want to have to like
But
think about it.
here's the difference, right? Like, yeah, who wouldn't? I think all of us would want to go back and not watch it, but it wouldn't make a difference if we did because whether we like it or not, it's canon and it's there. And you can pretend to be like, no, that's not how it happens. It does. That is the way it happens because it's canon. Now
Well,
with this,
I don't know if I
it
believe
doesn't
that.
matter. It's just not canon. It's not. It's its own thing. It
Yeah.
has nothing to do with Peter Jackson. So yeah, I
It's
mean,
it's it's not Jackson's canon. Let's be
it's
real.
not. It's
Jackson's
not Jackson's Peter Lord of the
Jackson's
Rings.
canon isn't Tolkien's canon. It's
It's
like
not.
there's really
No,
we're
no.
working on the third one at this point. But we grew it's what we like, it's what I'm personally attached to
Yeah,
is Peter Jackson's, and I don't want that, like, it's personal for me. I don't care what other people think, critics can hate it for whatever reason they want, or critics can love it, and then the audience can hate it for what they want.
right.
I think I dislike it for completely different reasons. I just don't want another one right now. And I said this today too, I would actually be okay with one day a Star Wars reboot, completely wipe it all and start over again.
Yeah, that'd be
Years
so weird.
well, that's what we're dealing with now. That's why my brain doesn't
Yeah,
wanna
yeah.
accept that there's another Lord of the Rings out there. It's like, not too soon. Like, I need to be in my 60s before I wanna
But see,
consider
you know,
a new Star Wars, you know?
but see, Tolkien was actually, Lord of the Rings was actually a book before
Sure.
it became movies. Star Wars was actually a movie first, so everything
Sure.
built off that is from the movie. So that's where I think this is where it's different because the book is very different from the movie. Star Wars was built, the books, everything else, the comics, everything was built from the movie.
That
So it's
yeah,
easier to connect and it's fine. But that's why I guess I'm not. I understand if
I
someone wants
know.
to do something different from Lord of the Rings, I guess they could. And if it's a different universe, it wouldn't really bother me because what I'm a fan of is Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. I could care
Right.
less about the Tolkien universe or anything like that. I care about Peter Jackson's universe of Lord of the Rings. But I
It's
understand to you. I mean, going back to your point, I do understand to a certain extent when it comes to not wanting a different version of what in your mind is perfection, because that's what happened with Ready Player One when I
yes.
read the book. I loved the book. The book was amazing. I couldn't be more excited to see the movie. The movie was such a letdown to me. And I can't even go back and read the book and feel as if like, okay, this was amazing. No, it's totally tarnished because all I can think about these characters that were completely miscast, the story that was completely butchered, and I can't like get that out of my mind. So in that
That's a
perspective,
better
I get what you're saying. Yeah,
that's actually a better comparison. That's very
yeah,
closely aligned with how I feel because it's at that point personal. If you either can draw a line or you can't.
yeah.
And as of right now, I can't yet. Maybe I can one day when I don't give a shit, but um it was such a nice revisit going down memory lane and watching back to back all of The Hobbit and then all of Lord of the Rings extended editions. It's like,
Yeah.
God, I haven't thought about this stuff in forever,
Well,
you know?
I've never seen the Hobbits back to back like the way you did. I've always saw them when they came out.
Years, years apart. Yeah.
Years once, and maybe if I actually saw it back to back, it would be like, oh
Maybe. It felt refreshing to me. That was
yeah.
I have seen Lord of the Rings a few times, especially Fellowship. It was the one that
Oh, that
we
I've
watched,
seen. Yeah, Lord of the Rings I've seen. Poof, yeah,
right? So
numerous
Hobbit
times.
felt very new. Like some of it was new, but even when I saw the Desolation of Smog, that almost felt completely new. There were things I remembered and things I really liked. Speaking of which, Evangeline Lilly was awesome. Perfect cast, I thought.
Completely made up
For,
character, by the way.
for a
Like,
character that
was
didn't even
not in
exist.
Tolkien at all. So
Dang.
yeah.
Um, Legolas was in it, and he was awesome. Uh,
Mhm.
Will Turner. So,
Oof.
Remember you were talking about the dwarfs and how human like they were,
yeah.
especially the
All right.
two of them. They're like,
That's yeah, and
yeah,
they tried to explain it without explaining it, but basically the two youngest here, and it's like they're the ones that look pretty much like us, like humans. And then I guess as you get older, your nose gets wider and your ears get bigger and your face gets
right.
droopier. Like that's the dwarf in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. That's a dwarf life cycle. Is you start out looking pretty
Yeah,
human, you're just short, and then you get really dwarf looking as you get older. Yeah, you get squatter and
yeah.
yeah.
I guess you can't have Evangeline Lilly's elf with a dwarf. That looked like a dwarf. It has to look human like somehow. So I guess that's why he determined to do it like that. I don't know.
I kind of
It's
think I
weird.
remember Ace. It wasn't those two, but I thought there was in Tolkien's words, and even maybe Gimli said something about it in the Lord of the Rings movies that there was an elf who fell in love with a dwarf. and so it has happened. Maybe he tried to like take a
Well,
spin on
he
that
was
story.
he was like in love with Galadriel, right? I can't pronounce
Galadriel.
her name. Galadriel.
Gladriel.
Yeah,
Galadriel. Damn it. Yeah.
Gladriel.
he
In the
yeah,
Fellowship of the Ring.
Fellowship.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did have a crush on her, hardcore. So yeah, and it was funny too because Legolas was talking to Turiel, I think was her name, of Evangeline Lilly's character.
Mm-hmm.
You
Right.
know, and she's talking about, well, he is rather tall for a dwarf.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, yeah, he is, but still ugly. You know, because he had the hots for her too. So it was
Right.
kind of funny. Like, 'cause of all things, he's the more attractive of the dwarfs that were in that group. You know, it's just funny. Let's see. Yeah, I suppose we've hit this at many angles. Are we gonna see? Is Lord of the Rings back? I mean, what do y'all think? Is it? Sounds like I haven't heard as much about Lord of the Rings as I have the YouTubers just going nuts over what side are you on? You know, basically that's what I think this whole thing is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's the show I think is taking more controversy what's gone on make as to what it took to make the show than the actual show itself. I'm not gonna say it's back because there's other things that I'm looking forward to seeing or that I'm enjoying now.
Correct. Absolutely.
So it to say that it's back, no, I'm not gonna say it's back. I mean, I'm entertained, just like the Force Awakens was entertaining. You know what I mean for what it is
Oh, I
and
was
how it
back
turned out.
with the Force
But
Awakens. I was
uh,
back, and
yeah,
then until I
well, that's
wasn't.
true. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a bad comparison because you're right. At the time, Force Awakens, I mean, we're all
It was like Star Wars,
excited
baby.
for that. Yeah.
See, for House of Dragons, I'm back with Game of
I'm back.
Thrones.
Yeah, I'm House of the
Yeah, and
Dragon.
okay, yeah, because
That's
after what
different.
Game of Thrones happened, it's scary to think that we would never. I never thought that I'd be so excited about the show. I was gonna check it out and be like, let's see what happens, I guess, But I
That's how
never
I walked
thought I'd
in.
be
Yeah,
completely excited. Which it's funny, but okay, so I can't at this moment we were all disappointed the way Game of Thrones ended, right? I
Of
mean, we
course.
were, but Rhett, you were willing to give House of Dragons a shot after the way Game of Thrones ended, but the and I'm not criticizing you because I really don't care either way. But Lord of the Rings is just like no, I
I
won't do
think it
it.
really has to do with the fact that Game of Thrones ended so badly. What could be worse?
it's that. Yeah.
What could be
Yeah,
worse?
I
You know what
guess
I
you're
mean? I
right.
mean, Lord of the Rings is obviously all the way up here,
Yeah,
and watching something else to meet perfection, it's like it's not
Well,
gonna meet that standard. It's
and
not gonna happen.
we're in the same canon too. It's not like they're saying, okay, now this is
oh yeah, we
not only
are.
a prequel. This is draw a
Yeah,
line in the sand,
Yeah,
different
this
things.
is
So it kind of
170 years before Daenerys.
yeah,
yeah, but I mean, the better show is House of Dragon,
Hundred
House of the
percent.
Dragon,
House
House
hundred
of
of
percent.
the
I'm
Dragon.
yeah, House
yeah.
of
I
the
know
Dragon.
why we do that is because Game of Thrones. We naturally want to say House
House
of
of Dragons.
Dragons.
Yeah,
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 that's what how that came to be. So,
yeah.
oh man. All right. Well, what do you think will? It kind of sucks because I think I was looking forward to this for a while until I realized it wasn't Peter Jackson's universe. And I wasn't saying he had to be the one behind it. I thought it would just be a
In
new
the
set of
same.
people. Yeah, like
Yeah,
we're gonna grab the same designers, or we're gonna take the same concept art and everything. You're gonna base it off of this. You're gonna base your score off of Howard Shore's musical score. You don't have to take every song, but the ring theme might pop in at some point. I mean, think about it. John Williams wrote new music for the prequels, but occasionally we'd hear just a few notes of the Force theme or something. Not to mention the opening crawl, but that's kind of what I was looking forward to. Was like, oh, great, we're gonna go back to the Second Age, nice, and it's gonna all tie together. And it just now it's
Ugh.
disassembled to me,
Yeah.
and I don't.
yeah, yeah. And you're right. I think they did keep it a secret uh, until
Mhm.
like 2 weeks before the show premiered because I don't think it. Yeah, right. I don't think anyone knew uh, for sure that this was completely different universe. I didn't know.
We
So
were in conversations together, looking it up, and none of us could find a solid answer that said it was or was not.
yeah,
Up and I would say it's probably like a month before it came out, we finally got an answer where someone confirmed it's not part of that universe. I was like, "What?"
mhm, yeah,
Yeah. What we gotta go back to our podcast. We were excited for a while, and then we saw like a weird, maybe start happening.
yeah,
So anyway, well, that went on for a while.
yeah. I mean, you know, I'm not as far as the show right now. There's no rush to see it. I can't recommend it to the point of saying yes, go see this show. You're missing out. It's too early to tell. So
A
Well,
lot more to watch right now.
don't feel bad. Don't feel like you're missing out on something that's like special. Uh, right now it's just okay. So
and, and the big question: will Rings of Power end up being the sequel trilogy? Is it gonna totally? I mean, right now it looks like
oh
it's already done
yeah,
the divide the fan base. Like you've got a division already. It opened up with here we go. This is it really started with the Last Jedi. That's where you had the division in the sequel trilogy. They're opening the doors with a division right now. So I foresee a lot of controversy for the rest of this show. And it could, if it, what'll set it free is if it's good. If it breaks into something that's really solid and good, you guys let me know, and maybe I'll give it a shot. But right now, I don't want to.
Yeah, right.
So
There's way better things
yeah,
to watch right now.
are we gonna
yeah.
look back on it 100 episodes of this podcast from now and go, just like sequel trilogy, Lord of the
No,
Rings,
well,
Rings of Power?
I'm not comparing it to the sequel trilogy. I mean, to me, I'm comparing this more to Obi-Wan because Obi-Wan started out, oh my god, this is gonna be
Oh yeah,
great, and
good point.
because they're both shows, so
Yeah.
it's they
Oh
didn't use
yeah.
any of the theme, any of the John Williams score, nothing. It was just.
Uh,
No, I'm sorry. I know I'm going back down to memory lane with the stupid show. I
how
just.
long are the episodes of Rings of Power? Are they at least decent length?
Oh
Oh yeah,
yeah, they're long.
they're an hour long. The
Oh,
first
okay.
one was an hour. I think the second was a little like over an hour actually.
Yeah,
Oh, all right.
So
Good
they're
for them.
long. Yeah. No,
they're
they
not
didn't
They
take
get
long.
they didn't take the Disney
They
Plus
didn't do
route
they
where they
didn't do
just
Disney
wanna.
Plus, right?
Yeah.
all right. 2 points for that, Amazon. I'll give it to you
Yeah.
there. All right, guys. I guess that's about it. I thought it was an interesting comparison. Lord of the Rings films and Star Wars films, the acquisitions that happened, and then a new audience. Bringing it to an audience. Is that really the key? Or should you stick with your old audience and they'll pay you again? I kind of feel like that's the better way to go. New audiences are, yeah, they're fickle.
I don't know.
They may flake out.
I
I think a new audience is gonna eventually flake out on you, personally.
I think when you base a story off a new audience, it depletes the value of the story you're telling because then you're rearranging your narrative around who's watching it, not around what the story you actually want to tell. So
Yeah.
I
Well, let's
just
see if it works for him.
yeah,
I mean, we'll
and
see.
Yeah.
that's with a lot of the content that's come out
Yeah.
over the years.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
And can I stick to my word? Can I actually stick without watching this thing for at least the first season? We'll
Mhm.
see.
Yeah, I think you will. And
Yeah.
honestly, I don't think it'll be too hard. There's a lot of stuff out there that you can watch that's gonna keep your attention.
Sure.
Cobra Kai season 5 premieres
Rick and
this
Morty season
week.
6 just came out.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I saw
Um,
season 5 of Rick and Morty. I definitely didn't see season 4 of Cobra Kai.
shame on you, by the way. I don't know what the hell you're waiting for,
Yeah,
but
maybe that's next. All right. It's been a pleasure. Everybody have a great night, day, wherever you have to be in the world. And we'll catch you next time.
peace.
Bye.